In today's video, I'm going to be replacing two windows here at my cabin in the woods in the Pacific Northwest. One in the corner bedroom and then the other right here inside the bathroom. This cabin was built in the 1970s and I don't know its full history, but I do know just by looking at these windows that they are very old and they need to be replaced. They have a really poor insulation quality, which leads to many issues. One of those being condensation buildup on the surface. There's just all kinds of problems. There's all kinds of reasons why they need to go. So I picked up two brand new windows from Home Depot last night and I should have all the tools that I need to do this job. Let's see what happens. Now that is a perfectly good trim piece that I could use on a future building for exterior use. It's kind of ugly, but if I trim that end off, repaint it, recaulk it, perfectly good. This top piece of trim is a little bit more difficult because the overhang of the roof makes it limited space for movement. Now that I've removed the exterior trim from both of these windows, I need to remove both of them, but in order to do that, I gotta reveal the flange that's on the perimeter. And whoever installed this siding cut it out exactly around the window and then put it over top of that flange. So I'm gonna go inside the garage and measure the flange on the new window and cut off that same amount, and hopefully the old window's flange is the same as the new one. And if it's not, then I'll have to cut it a little bit wider. So I just called it a flange. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but that's what I call it. This flange is about 1 1/8 inches, so I'm going to trim 1 1/4 inches around the window. I changed my mind. I'm going to draw my cut line 1.5 inches around this window because it's a lot easier to find something that's 1.5 inches thick than it is 1 1/4 inches, and that should give me plenty of space. So that red line is where I'm going to cut. I don't know how I'm gonna make that top cut because the saw doesn't fit up there. All right, now I can see how much of that flange is sticking over. That's good. I just set this saw blade to a really deep depth and did some very unsafe maneuvers, but I got that top cut made. Now I've got everything exposed that is holding the window in. And there's just this one nail. All the heads of these nails just keep bending, every single one of them. It's so annoying. You pry on it and then it gives way, and now I'm gonna have to go back and pull all of them, probably with the hammer, going side to side. Well, that should come out now at least. Broke the head off of it. And there's two more at the top that are holding the window into place. So once I get those two, then it should fall. Oh, there we go. Oh, I did it. Well, that's about the extent of the preparations I'm gonna make before putting the new window in. I've got all of the 2x4 framing exposed all the way around. All right, I just got 2 screws on the sides here, so the window is propped in position, and now I'm going to take off these screws and I am going to find a happy medium between the middle going this way and the middle going this way, and then I'm going to screw it back in place. Okay, so I don't have much room for up and down movement, so as soon as it's level, I'm just going to screw it in. Never mind, I'm going to go inside and take the screen off and open the window, and I think that's going to help me out. So here's what it looks like from the inside. It actually looks really good. It fits well. I just got to make sure that I leave the same gap over here as I do over here. I just don't want to see more white on one side of the window than on the other side of the window when I do the trim. So just got to make sure that's the case. But this is pretty much sitting on the bottom right there, and then there's not much room right there. So Check it out. This thing is screwed in from the outside on all sides. There's the bottom there. It's kind of hard to see the top, but there's the top. And let's go check inside. I think it works, and I think it looks pretty good. And the things that aren't very pretty are gonna be fixed later on when I do the trim. So now, let's do the other room. This whole bunk bed assembly thing here was built against the window trim here, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to get the window trim off without having to disassemble this entire bed. Oh yeah. Ooh. There we go. I did it. So because life is crazy, it's been a few days since I was out here and got this window to this point where I'm at right now. One of the reasons it's been a few days is because I went to neighbor Al's house to gather some firewood, because like I said, the weather has been really bad for a long time, but it got really nice the last few days. So I wanted to help Al gather some firewood while I had the chance. So I did that, and whenever I go to his house, he lives closer to town.
What? Aren't we working fast enough?
So I take the opportunity to do a town trip. I filled up my gas cans, and then I purchased some trim, some new trim that's gonna go around these windows. But before I install the trim, I gotta make some preparations, and I still have to remove that window. So let's get back to work. So I was able to take a scrap 2x3 from my wood storage up there and create these pieces, which I need for the windows. This is kindling, and now I can use these for stickers for future stacking and stickering of lumber, like I did there in the garage, and those ones up there in the woodshed. I do plan to do more milling of 2x4s in the future, and you can never have enough sticker material. Too wide. Good morning, everyone. So just to clarify what these little strips of wood are for, when I put those pieces of pre-primed trim on, I need to make sure they lay flat against the cabin. And these little strips fill in the gap that was left after I tore all the pieces of old siding out. If that would have came off more clean, I could have reused it, but it broke off into a million tiny pieces, and I just had to do this instead. So I'm almost ready to put the trim on, but before I do that, I want to clean up all this old caulking. Some of this stuff right here, make sure it's nice, flat, and clean. I'm pretty sure an axe like this is not the recommended tool to be using for this, but that's what I just used. So this stuff is 6 inches wide, and I'm pretty sure that's because it's meant to go on the inside of the framing and then overlap. But this application, I don't know. I'm just gonna put it right on the outside because that's what makes the most sense to me. So I'm gonna trim it a little bit shorter than 6 inches and then apply it in the proper order that I think it should go. And I think it's gonna work well the way that I'm about to do it. All right, the tape has been applied to both windows, and this stuff is extremely sticky. Holy cow, I was really surprised at how powerful the adhesion is, especially once it's applied to that white vinyl. It does not want to come back off. And I tried to do it in a specific order: bottom, then the sides, and then the top, because if the rain fell and somehow magically water made its way up there, it would hit there and then run on top of that tape that goes on the top, down the side piece, and then the side comes down, and the overlap between the two is right here, so water can't get trapped. So at this point, the trim that I'm gonna put on next is purely aesthetic. This is like protected from the weather, but of course I'm still gonna do the trim because I want to make it look good and paint this in the future.
Whoa.
That's one of my least favorite things to do, is caulking, because it's never perfect. But I'm satisfied with that first one. Now I just got to do this one. It is now the next morning and the foam has expanded. Let's take a look. I can't remember a previous project where I didn't do exactly what I just did, and that is overfill the gaps. At least this time I used some tape on the edge, so it's clean all the way around the window. So the trim in the future is going to cover that. The most important thing is that it just insulates. This one I overfilled too, but you know what? When you overfill, it actually makes it easier to tear it out. So that's looking at the bright side of things. By the way, this is specific to windows and doors. They sell different types of great stuff. And if you're using it on windows and doors, you want to get that kind because it doesn't expand as powerfully. Because if you use the wrong stuff, you can really like warp your door, warp your window, and it can cause real problems. So this is door and window expansion foam. Great stuff brand. Well, that's a wrap for this window. In this room, trim work is going to be done in the future. That is a chore / project for down the road. Same thing goes for this window in the bathroom. I'm going to put trim up there eventually, but I've got a lot of future plans for this bathroom. Let's head outside real quick and take a look at how the caulking looks. It's almost completely cured. It's still a little bit wet. This stuff takes longer to cure when it's moist and cold outside like this time of the year. So that's as far as I'm gonna get for progress on the exterior of these windows. Down the road, I'm gonna paint the whole cabin and then that will be done. One last thing I wanna explain that some of you may noticed, I did not put a bead of caulk on the bottom of either one of these windows. Every other time I've trimmed out a window like this, I have put a bead of caulk on the bottom, but I'm not doing it this time because you may have noticed in the footage of me taking the old trim off, there was some rot on one of the corners, actually both of the corners, because I think when you put a bead of caulk on the bottom, water that works its way behind it gets trapped and it has nowhere to go. It can't work its way out, and then it just rests in there and it rots the wood. And these windows even have a hole right there and a hole right there for water that falls in here to come out. So I think it's just inevitable that water is going to work its way behind this piece of trim no matter what I do. I could put caulk along here, but I don't think caulk adheres to this vinyl very well. So all that being said, I'm just going to leave the bottom of these open, no caulking, and I'm just going to allow the water to go back there. And if you remember, there's the tape behind that piece of trim. And like I said, that tape really seals up the window. So the trim at this point is just like a cover. And behind that, I think it's really well protected. And I could go on and on and on because there are many different types of windows. There's many different types of ways to install, but that's how I did mine. And as I showed you a little bit earlier in this video, I visited neighbor Al this week as well, and we gathered some firewood. So that is going to be the next video, I'm pretty sure. So look forward to that one on the channel, and many more things. I'm gonna keep working on the back of the cabin. I'm very motivated to really, like, I don't know, just finish this part, even though it's winter. So I don't know if that's gonna happen because I'm working around the weather, but so far that's going okay. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.